Before I start, I want to show you a clever copper investment. My father made this copper weather vane. It's 2 sheets of copper hammered into shape and welded together. So that right there is a lot of copper, and it's pretty cool. Okay, so anyhow, this video is about Jonathan Lebed, stock manipulator, SEC Nemesis, and 15. Yesterday I did a video about Michael Lewis, and he had a book about this called Next, The Future Has Just Happened. And I read an article on this. I'm linking it, and I highly recommend you read this article. First of all, Jonathan Lebed has a presence on YouTube, and several of my YouTube friends work with him. And they've gotten a lot of flack in the comments because they're saying, Jonathan's a scammer and so forth. So what I want you to do is I want you to read the story, make up your own opinion about whether he's a scammer or not. Maybe you'll think he is. Maybe you think he's not. It's not my job to tell you what to think. It's my job to tell you, here's the article, read it, and you think for yourself. Okay. So anyhow, Jonathan Lebed was a teenager who won a national stock picking contest. So this kind of shows to me he had some skills. He knew what he was doing, because this is a nationwide contest that he won with all these other teenagers. So he knows something. And he quickly discovered that adults don't understand stocks and markets. So as this is my opinion. As adults, we are indoctrinated by decades of propaganda, the media, and so forth. Our egos are built up all the time, so we think that we are experts on things we know little about. And a few wins in the stock market will reinforce this ego, and then all of a sudden, all these adults think that they're these amateur geniuses in the stock market when they're not doing nothing but riding a bull market up. And when the bull market falls, they get burnt. Well. Anyhow, Jason Lebed kind of saw all that, and he used this to his advantage. He had an $8,000 bond come due, and his father let him play in the market. He made money in the market, and he discovered that by promoting the stocks that he bought, he could make even more money. What he would do is he would find penny stocks that he liked, he would buy them, and then he would go on like 200 message boards, and he would promote this penny stock. He would say all these things like it's a great buy, and he would be like a salesman for the stock, and the stock would often go up a couple times in value, and he would sell it. The reason is because on these penny stocks, there's such a small market cap that a relatively smaller amount of money could send it up. So that's what would happen, is it would send the stock up, and then he would cash in the gains, and later the stock would fall because the volume was kind of artificial, because it was based upon him pumping it. Well, after he made about $800,000, the SEC stepped in and accused him of stock market fraud. And we had several full-time SEC workers that the taxpayers are paying for did this, stepped in, and they made him return some of the money, but he got to keep $500,000, which means if what he was doing was like all wrong, then they would have shut him down totally, right? Because he kept doing it. And the SEC was surprised that this 15-year-old kid wasn't intimidated by them and kept up with what he was doing. Kind of shows you how the adult think is. Adults are taught about these authority figures. We're intimidated, we back off. But as a kid with like fresh eyes who wasn't indoctrinated, he just did what he thought he should be doing. Or that's just, I'm just making that up. I don't know the truth here, but that was my editorial. But anyhow, it says in the article that they couldn't completely, quote, bust him, because if they did, it would lead to bigger issues with the system as a whole they could not address. So they said 11 days of trading, what he did was wrong, took the money away, and left them with like a half $500,000. And another funny thing in the article, it said that the fact that he had this like Mercedes made the SEC say, oh, we can't let this happen, because he was 15, he couldn't drive, yet he bought a $41,000 car and had his friends drive him around with it. And this kind of really irked the egos of these SEC people. So my kind of editorial here is that Bernie Madoff ripped off billions and billions of dollars. The SEC was warned many times, it was ignored, but the SEC decided to go after a 15-year-old who made less than $1 million. So I'm not saying what he did was right or wrong. I'm saying that shows you the priorities of these authorities and who they're really going after, and what's really going on in the system. So my opinion is Jason Lebed was a microcosm of the system. CEOs get on CNBC, pump their stocks, and then the CEOs sell their stock when the price is really high. And these CEOs tell half-truths and even blatant lies and are not held accountable. Just before Lehman Brothers collapsed, the Lehman CEO was up there saying everything was fine when he knew very well it was not fine, and yet there were no cops going after this guy. It was, it's a big joke. Today, even the Fed is a big pumper and dumper. They're telling us green shoots when they know very well the economy is in shambles, yet they're lying about the economy to get people into it. So what's happening with Jason is happening on a system-wide level. And my opinion is the entire system is a big scam. The whole system is a pump and dump scheme. So I mean, if you are in the system, you are part of this pump and dump scheme. And that's why I'm saying buy hard assets like gold and silver. Get out of the scheme. Protect your money on the sidelines, and when they get their act together with the system, maybe put your money back in. And this also shows you that adults will listen to rumors to try and strike it rich. These same adults would have not listened to these posts if they had known who posted them. A 15-year-old kid. Now, here's what I'm saying. Why are these adults listening to posts they cannot verify and back up in the first place? I don't know. I was trading stocks at the time, and I actually saw a lot of posts like that, and I ignored them because it's like, I said, this is probably someone who's just trying to sell their book or something like that. I'm not going to get involved with that, and I didn't. And ironically, at the time, because Jonathan was this really good kid stock picker. A lot of these penny stocks probably were really good values when they first started pumping them, but when they started going up several times in value, all of a sudden they were overvalued. But the question is, at what point was it undervalued, overvalued, and so forth? So, this is not something I would do or I would recommend or be a part of. But what he did was a microcosm of the big system. So leave that for food for thought, is the morality and ethics of this all, and legality of this. Think about what's going on, and think about gold and silver, something you can hold and not be manipulated. The physical part anyway. We know the paper games are going on. So thank you for watching.